Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Barry Lyndon, directed by Stanley Kubrick, and this movie came out in 1975, and it's a movie that I've never seen before. I've only heard about it from Sardonicast because I listened to their podcast and I really like them. And I've always wanted to see this movie, I just never got around to seeing it, and I finally saw it. Now, before I get into the actual review itself, I just want to mention that just in case it looks like I'm acting a little weird or as if I'm in pain. I got my second COVID shot today, and the first time I got it, eventually it started to feel as though it was bruised or something, and that's kind of what's going on right now. So if it looks like I'm acting a little bit weird, that's because I am. I'm just trying not to touch it or make too much movement in my left shoulder, because as soon as I do that, that's when it starts to hurt. So just throwing that out there in case you were curious as to why I'm acting a little weird. But I think it's worth it because I get to talk about Barry Lyndon, otherwise known as quite possibly my new favorite movie of all time. Now you might be asking, what is this movie about? And I can basically describe the plot because it's pretty simple and it's not going to spoil anything. And what the movie is basically about, it's the story about a character who eventually his name is Barry Lyndon, but it was Barry was his last name. I can't remember his first name. And it focuses on this character, and it's just the story of his life, and it focuses on him for I don't know how many years, from when he's like a teenager, like 18 or something, all the way to like when he's a full-grown man and has children. So what do I like about this movie? I really love how it was told, and it's a very slow movie, but it's not boring. And each scene moves the movie forward, and as the movie is going along, you're introduced to new characters, and not all of them stay. In fact, now that I think about it, very few of them stay, and the ones that do don't last very long. And it goes through these different events in this character's life, and I found that very interesting because I had no idea where the story was going to go. And as I'm just watching this movie, it's like it's just a big mystery. Sure, you can figure out a couple things that are going to happen eventually, but for the most part, you don't know what's going to happen next. And the dialogue that's given to these characters is great. It's very fitting for the time period, and this movie has great comedic moments, and I thought it was funny. And there's also some really sad parts to this movie, and when it's dramatic, I think that's when the movie is at its best. And there's some legitimately sad things that happen in this movie, and I can't say what they are because that would spoil the movie, but what I can say is that every dramatic moment in this movie is handled so perfectly. It's like, it felt as if it was handled with such care and attention that I don't see it often. I just don't see this often, and for me to feel this amount of emotion watching a movie, I think that works really well for this movie. I love how this movie looks. I listened to Sardonicast talk about this movie, and I very much agree with this. And it's like each shot in this movie is like a painting, and I found that very interesting. And I'm excited to see this movie again and really pick up on these little details and the amount of effort that's put into this movie. And there's so many different locations. It's like you're moving all around the world, basically. And it's just a gigantic adventure. You laugh, you cry, and this might be a tiny bit of a spoiler, but I just want to say it. I can't hold it back. The heart of the movie for me is the rise and fall of our main character. And as I said before, it's a slow burn, so you slowly see these things get better and better as the movie keeps going to the middle of the film. And once we get past that, that's when things slowly fall apart. And as the movie progresses, it gets worse and worse for this character. And I really loved the relationships he has with all the different characters in the movie. And he's not really a likable character. there are things to like about him, but he's kind of rude to people, and I found that interesting. But I never found the character to be unlikable to the point where I just didn't find him interesting and just wanted him to be removed from the film, or he's just one-dimensional and he's just an unlikable douchebag and I just can't stand this character. No, there's more to the character than just him being unlikable and doing like horrible things. There's a lot to this movie and there's a lot that I love about it. I should also mention this movie is 3 hours long and a lot happens, and it's very similar to Spartacus. And the reason I bring that up is because in terms of structure it's kind of similar, but I think this movie has a lot more to it. And I think it works so much well because more stuff happens in this movie as opposed to Spartacus. Not saying I don't like Spartacus, I love Spartacus, but this movie has a lot more to it for me, and that's why I would rather watch Barry Lyndon over Spartacus. And I still really love Spartacus, just to be clear. I know I've said that a couple times already, but I just want to be clear. There are things in this movie that get reincorporated from the beginning of the movie all the way to the end of the movie. And one thing that I should point out is that I do feel as though our main character does have an arc. I understand that some people don't really feel that way, but I do feel as though this character does redeem himself by the end of the movie without spoiling anything. And the acting is great. There's not a single bad performance in this movie, and even the child actors are good. There's a character in this movie that gets introduced in the second half of the movie, and I really like that character, and I don't want to say who it is because I'm trying to keep it vague. But I thought he was great. I thought he was possibly the best character in the second half of the movie. I'll have to rewatch this movie for a second time to really decide whether or not I feel that way, but this is how I feel right now. I really love that character, and I felt I understood his motivations and why he did what he did. And speaking of characters, I should also mention that each character that gets introduced in this movie serves a purpose. No matter how little or how big, each character has a purpose in this movie. And I can't think of many movies that do that. And this movie pulled it off for me. And I would highly, highly recommend Barry Lyndon. Although it's 3 hours long, there is an intermission that comes in about an hour and 40 minutes into the movie. And you can basically watch it in 2 parts. The movie literally says part 1, and then after that intermission it says part 2. If you want to watch it that way, feel free to. I feel as though that's a way you can watch it. And this movie had everything that I wanted, and I was looking forward to this movie so much. I really was hoping that was great, but I was also keeping my expectations realistic, because if I go into a movie with unrealistic expectations, that it's never going to live up to that. And this is a movie that I feel earned it and kept going and going, and I was entertained throughout, and I was very happy with watching this movie. And if you haven't seen this movie, definitely check this one out. And I'm going to give Barry Lyndon a 10 out of 10. I don't think many people have seen this movie, and I think it's safe to say that this movie is underrated. And I would highly recommend that you check this one out, and I think you would enjoy it. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what you thought of Barry Lyndon down below. And my social media links, they will all be in the description down below, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation. And I'll see you when I get my next review up. And that's going to be for Under the Silver Lake, directed by David Robert Mitchell. But until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day. No. Gosh. They're so playful. Oh my. Ah!